Hey, welcome back into today's video. This is the most evil situation that I've ever seen on YouTube. Ruby Frank of the former 8 Passengers family channel was charged with 6 counts of aggravated CA after her 12-year-old son escaped from a window and then went to the neighbor's house. The details about this situation are disturbing, as recorded 911 calls and court documents reveal gruesome details. Evidence even suggests that the Church of Latter-day Saints was conspiring with Jodi Hildebrandt, covering up the fact that Jodi has destroyed multiple people's lives before 8 Passengers. This topic is one of the worst ones that I've ever covered on this channel. I think it's one of the worst ones I've heard about on YouTube. Get ready for today's episode of Exploring YouTubers. For this video, I wanted to dive really deep in this situation and take you from the beginning of what happened to now. There are certain things and aspects to do with people in this situation, such as Jodi, that a lot of people aren't talking about, and I've discovered some things, and even Jodi's niece speaking out about her situation, which is very similar in the details of what happened with Ruby's children. If you're unfamiliar, Ruby Frank was the face of the popular YouTube channel 8 Passengers. She documented her life alongside her husband Kevin Frank and their 6 children. The channel grew to 2.5 million subscribers before some very bad rumors about the family began to circulate, and to be fair, the channel was declining before that. As can be seen from the 8 Passengers social blade, there are some discrepancies that kind of make no sense. It looks like in April 2022, there were over 74 million worth of video views deleted, and then again in June, over 89 million. And you could see they were steadily declining by losing tens of thousands of subscribers throughout the years. And as you know, the channel was recently deleted by YouTube, but before that, the channel declined down to about 2.28 million subscribers. YouTube telling Insider Magazine it removed their joint account connections in Frank's 8 Passengers channel at the news of their arrest. But if we're going to understand this entire situation, we need to go back 3 years to a now deleted video where Ruby's son Chad says something that's pretty off.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on. And I was like, we're not going to Disneyland.
So this was the first big red flag that got on the commentary channel's radar. Everybody started going through their past videos and the things that they found.
I just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
That is the most insane thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. So yes, this is a big problem, but this was just the opener.
You're gonna lose the privilege to eat.
You don't need food.
My kids are literally starving. Not under any circumstance go into the kitchen. Once you hit 99 pounds, you don't need any suckers anymore. You're too old, you're too big.
There's nothing to eat?
Yeah, I need to go to the store. Stop, just stop. Look at me. You're going straight to bed and you don't get dessert today. We're all gonna go out and get a cookie.
Then play a family game.
Eve, you cannot be in my room and do that.
There were other instances where she leveraged food to get her kids to do what she wanted. It was like this weird controlling thing. I had absolutely no idea how many reoccurring bills were coming off my card each month until my friend suggested that I use Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. So you know how you get caught up in life and then you forget about that free trial that you signed up for that inevitably turns into a monthly payment? Never again. Rocket Money keeps up with everything you're spending, and you can even set budgets. It will identify every subscription you have, and I guarantee you're going to find some that you didn't know about. Then it'll save you some time by canceling them for you. It's really cool. You can just cancel them right there in the app. Another thing I like about this app is it monitors your credit score. It shows how much you're spending on each of your cards every month and more. Also, something I really like is it can lower your bills for you. Just search up which bill you'd like to try to lower and then log in with your credentials. It'll ask you to upload one of your bills, to which you can upload with your phone by photo. Download Rocket Money and unlock more features with Premium. Go to rocketmoney.com/Repzilla or click the link in the description below. And thanks again to Rocket Money for supporting what we do on this channel. There were other instances where she leveraged food to get her kids to do what she wanted. It was like this weird controlling thing.
Eve, jump in. Massage my back. Get rubbing. Okay, massage my back. Get scratching. Scratch my head. Come on, you gotta earn your keep. You don't get breakfast if you don't massage my back.
You're so mean.
Okay. Get up there and scratch. 12-year-olds. I guess you don't get food today.
And I'll die.
Yes, you'll die.
Jesus Christ. In another video clip, you can hear Russell saying that if he doesn't behave, then well, you just need to watch this.
Because I really won't get anything this summer. I won't be able to go anywhere. No, I don't have any friends. No iPads, no TV, nothing.
You just heard Russell say that he had no friends and no one to play with. It turns out that these children were isolated in this way. Just check out this clip.
You can play with friends.
No, like I don't have friends.
I don't have friends either.
I
Feel about not having any friends.
sucks, but I don't feel safe or accepted in any friend group, so.
That's really vulnerable of you to say that. I love that I can talk to my nephews that way. Get in line!
Whoa. We check out the way she looks at this kid. Jesus Christ, that's scary, man. One user says, my punishment as a kid was I couldn't get down from the dinner table until I ate all my food. This is insane. So at this point in the video, you can see it's been demonstrated enough to prove a pattern of behavior that she did not allow her children proper food. She didn't give them what they needed, and that she leveraged food to get them to do her bidding, and it's very disturbing.
Many of you are criticizing and calling abusive are actually things that mental health professionals have counseled us to do.
We got accused of child abuse when we sent Chad to Anasazi. Guess what? The first thing that they did was take a bed away. They don't have beds. People are really triggered. And so if you are triggered and you're upset because of something Kevin and I have done with our children that is actually working really well for us, then I would invite you to look at it and ask yourself, what is it that I'm projecting onto this situation? Because
many people are saying that Kevin is just as guilty. And I do think it's important to note that Kevin was there in the scene and was condoning Ruby and Jody's actions up until a point. As we can see several clips of Kevin being a part of Ruby's discipline decisions, and even at one time being a part of Jody's Connections program. As you can see, there he is dancing on stage there. However, sometime last year, it appears that Kevin was kicked out of the house by Ruby, as verified by someone close to the family. And throughout the rest of the year of 2020 and the years leading up, commentary channels still picked apart the videos and showed even more disturbing footage, leading to the breakdown of the channel. A petition was even created that garnered over 17,000 signatures to have CPS investigate into 8 passengers. Ruby and Kevin were of course denying the wrong that they were doing. They said it was just the internet stirring up drama in an interview with Insider by Lindsay Dodson. Ruby and Kevin said that they were teaching their children choices and consequences of their actions. A letter from the Division of Child and Family This is in Utah, where the Franks live, seen by Insider at the time, said the case was closed because the claims were unsupported. And you're going to see throughout this video many instances where the cops were called, CPS was got a hold of, and even someone opened a case up against Jody at one point in time. And no matter what someone did, nothing happened. And I think I know why. We'll get to it. And something I think that is important to point out is that the family's lawyer, I think he's Larry Shapiro, said that they were a good family at one time that just got torn apart. And I think this has a lot to do with Jody. Things really started to fall apart for the family around September 2022 when the eldest daughter, Sherry, posted this saying, "I know that there are many rumors circulating online about my family. While it is true I'm not in contact with my immediate family and don't support the extreme beliefs of connections, please remember that this is my real family. Despite good intentions, speculating rumors and gossip doesn't help us. I'd like to ask for privacy for me and my family as we work through this very difficult situation. Please know that many are working on this situation, and I hope one day that we can be whole again. Please respect my privacy as I work through my own healing as well." But as we know, that's not the only family member that left. There was also speculation that the second oldest, Chad, also moved out. One article by a woman named Rachel says, "Rumors are unclear about what exactly happened, but have indicated the family is in crisis. Kevin has apparently moved out and separated from Ruby. Apparently, Jody has moved in with Ruby. The oldest Frank's son, Chad, who is 17, has also moved out. After likely being kicked out, the oldest Frankie daughter, Sherry, who is a student at BYU, has allegedly cut contact with her entire family. Also, while this has been known for quite a while, Ruby has also cut off contact with her immediate family, parents, siblings, in-laws, etc. The most concerning thing being said, though, is that Ruby still has her youngest 4 children, Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve, with her and has supposedly pulled them out of school. She reportedly left them alone while at a connections conference for 6 days. The oldest child, Abby, is only 15, while the youngest is 9. CPS has reportedly been involved and called the home numerous times recently. And while I was researching, I ran into an interview by Page 6 that kind of verifies this. It says a female neighbor who spoke anonymously to the outlet Saturday claimed a wellness check was performed on the Frank home following her September 2022 call with Child Protective Services, but no one answered the door. Remember, Sherry moved out in September of that year. It turns out that it was Sherry who called the cops to go check on her younger siblings. Apparently, Ruby had left for several days and they had been there alone. And that was when they showed up and they could see the kids through the windows, but no one would let them in. We also learned all throughout the year of 2022, there were multiple calls to the police about the children in the home. It turns out one of those calls was Ruby herself, who said that she was being harassed. One neighbor saying, "I'm really angry because I spoke up. Other people spoke up and nothing happened," the woman said. If people knew the amount of tears and time spent talking with law enforcement and CPS over the last year, I want people to understand that, and I want those kids to know that because I think they thought they were abandoned. The resident went on to claim that Ruby would leave the little ones home for weeks, which prompted Eve to knock on doors looking for playmates. One person saying she would just say, "Hi, can your kids play?" he said. And we're like, "Well, they're at school. They won't be home for 3 or 4 hours." And she'd be like, "I'll wait." She's like this lost child. To give you an idea how bad this situation was for the neighbors, a man's quoted saying, "Everyone is just breathing a collective sigh of relief because we thought they were going to come out of that house with body bags." The father, Kevin, was also an associate professor at BYU, the same university that Sherry goes to, and his employment ended earlier that year as well, which adds to the fact that something went terribly wrong.
I've just been afraid of Jody. Jody is a terrifying, powerful, convincing person that has a lot of influence, and a lot of people believe anything and everything that she says. She systematically destroyed my reputation.
Around June of 2022, Ruby made a video talking about a new direction she was going to take with her channel, even changing the name of her Instagram to Moms of Truth. Also opening up a Facebook page of the same name with Jody.
A lot of you are going, wait a minute, I thought this is 8 passengers. How come the name changed? So I wanted to get on and just make a little update about what I wanted to do, the direction I wanted to take with my social media. And my children are getting older. My kids are... Sherry has already flown the coop and Chad is closely behind her. And then before you know it, in a handful of years, all of my children will be gone. And I have a real powerful message. And I started my vlog because I love mothers. I started the hashtag Mothers Are Powerful many years ago. That be for everyone. If you want to stick around, if you would like to learn, I hope you stay.
This is where I believe the video gets pretty weird. She starts projecting and blaming others for her actions.
The world has very many people have accused me of exploiting my children, and then those very people have turned around and exploited my children. I can't post a picture or a story about my children without it being exploited. And so I am not going to share my children or family with the world anymore in that way. I'm going to be podcasting, sharing.
Obviously, what she's calling exploiting is people calling her out for not giving her children proper food and places to, live their lives. The truth is what we know. She didn't decide this because of mean people on the internet. She decided this because she single-handedly destroyed her family, and now she's trying to save face. Ruby then decided to join Jody on her Connections YouTube channel. I believe this ensured the absolute destruction of Ruby's family. Here's a video that she posted with Jody on the Connections channel.
You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. I
do want to pause that, and I want to say that she did not leave her channel. She was exposed and she couldn't take criticism, and that's what happened. Now, it's weird to me how she says that she quit her channel because she needed to save her children when we know the truth. I don't know what this is or who would believe this, honestly. It's like she's trying to save face so she can have some followers and still make some money.
They were being hurt with people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in my home long enough to do it, and I'm not going to lose them. They're seeing truth, they're accepting truth, they're loving truth. And so this is my passion, is to invite you to stand in truth and put your opinions to the side for a minute. Because your kids are the target of distortion.
What was that? God, that's scary. The way this person can just stare at the camera and lie with their whole chest is crazy.
Target of distortion.
We need you. We love you. We know what power exists inside you. And we want you to be here. So please, humble yourself. Become curious about what we're saying. If you start getting reactionary, stop yourself and say, stop. Jennifer, stop. Rachel, stop. What are they trying to say to me? What am I not hearing? Why am I want to fight them? That's your distortion. That's what comes up in me. Anytime I want to fight someone, I'm like, stop, Jody, stop. Why am I getting so reactionary here? Like, there's no here. There's no. What's going on?
You know that feeling she's talking about is the uh-oh feeling, and she's telling you not to trust your uh-oh feeling. Now, obviously, as this progressed, Ruby was said to have isolated herself and her children, even pulling them out of school. All we can hope is that Sherry is right, that there are many people working and sorting out the situation and potentially removing the children from Ruby's custody, depending on just how deeply embedded in Connections extremism she is. But if she has alienated her entire family, though, it's safe to say that she is scarily embedded in a newfound cult. And we do know that's exactly what happened. This article that I'm reading from was posted September 26, 2022, a full year before all of this happened, so the warning signs were there. A lot of people really aren't talking about Jody in this situation, and I don't think they're talking about her yet. I think once they realize the part that she played in this entire thing and the downfall of this family, more people will start talking about her. Recently, her niece came out, Jessie Handelbrandt, and exposed a lot of information. This happened just today, so a lot of people haven't heard about this. And we're going to be talking about that in this video in just a little bit. But first, I need to tell you about Jody, starting with her program Connections. Now, my YouTuber friend Chazzy made a video going into detail on the Connections program that Jody was a part of. He went over some reviews and some really intense things. He's currently live streaming about Jody's niece coming out, and he's been doing excellent coverage on this topic. I'm going to put the video he deep dives about Connections in the description below. Now, one of the first things that you need to know about Jody is that she is a therapist with a shady past, and that's putting it lightly. This woman, and you're going to be shocked to find this out, this woman has a history of destroying families' lives long before 8 Passengers. Let's go back to April 5th, 2012. So this article details a situation where Jody lost her therapy license and ruined somebody's family. The guy says all of the claims made by Jody were false, but they led to his loss of privileges in the church and his ejection from BYU. He's quoted saying, "She just lied wherever she went to further an agenda to destroy my life." The man objected to bills that were as high as $2,000 a month, saying, "We came there for marriage counseling, and she pulled us into her pee marathon." That escalated. Jody was put on probation for 18 months and nearly lost her license for gossiping about these people's marriage. But it gets worse. Between 2008 and 2010, Jody repeatedly discussed the couple with their LDS clergy and other mental health therapists without having signed authorization. To make it even more bizarre, Jody went to this man's university's honor code office and told them that he had serious issues without ever having diagnosed him or having spent enough time to do so. He says she spent hardly any time knowing about my life. He said she didn't want to talk about my personal goals or my progress. She would only threaten me that if I didn't take more sessions and have my wife take more sessions, the alleged would destroy my life. Even stranger is that while Jody was giving therapy to this man's wife, she allowed this woman to work in her clinic as a mental professional, which she wasn't. And, among other things, blurs the therapeutic client privilege. John Doe said he did not have issues, and once he began to question Jody's therapy, which cost $1,200 to $2,000 a month, his personal life started to unravel. Obviously, there's a pattern here with Jody, and as we get more into it, we're going to hear from her niece, Jessie. But interesting is that when I went to her Instagram for Connections, there were some people in the comments after she was arrested that had some things to say. One user said, "So validated after I tried to warn everyone of Jody's methods. She separated my son from us and forced him to live in the attic of a garage. Barbaric. I hope justice is served. She should not be allowed to ever practice as a counselor again. Rot in prison." Now, I do want to say something interesting is you hear a lot of how Jody would put these people in areas and spaces to confine them like this. Like I said, you'll hear from her niece who's had a story very similar. But another user on this Instagram said, "Jody and her extreme views on boundaries and have been toxic in my family and extended family. She has been a key to destroying lifelong sacred relationships and given voice to the most ugly and toxic ways of thinking and acting. It is validating to see her finally being exposed. I am heartbroken for those children, and I hope justice is served. We are only now recovering years later." There's also a public figure named Scott who said something. It has currently over almost 3,000 likes. It says, "It was only a matter of time before you'd be exposed, Jody. I knew from the moment I met you something was incredibly off with you. Something dark and haunting. You played a significant role in ruining the relationships of some of my loved ones with your distortion counseling. You brought a tremendous amount of pain to these families, including mine. I hope this situation teaches you the lessons you've been needing and allows you time to get counseling yourself to find peace moving forward. No more pain for you or your clients." And now it's really important to point out that these things happened before Connections. These were things from Jody's past, but Chaz points out from reviews on our website.
Then she's doing the Connections thing, and a lot of people leave reviews about it, and this is what they have to say. "I would like to leave a review for others as a warning to avoid Jody Hildebrandt and her teaching and philosophy at all costs. It cost me a marriage, and she used a shaming me and the others in the group I attended as control. My former wife and I had our issues, but it wasn't until we had individual sessions that these These distortions, she said, were there, turned into distortions that cost a marriage and divided a family. I once had a billing issue regarding the time of session. She would frequently call me from her car with spotty service, and our conversation would drop sometimes up to 10 to 15 minutes. Yet she was charging me for the full session. When I approached her about it, she blew up and started yelling and accused me of trying to get more session time that I paid for. You know, it really sounds like Jody needs to be the one that needs to have therapy here. There is not one good thing about her program. It should be investigated for fraud and misconduct. I would refer to her as Satan in Saints clothing. I would be spending as much effort that I can to warning people about her distortion and shame she puts on others. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there is a lot of people that reviewed about this warning people not to take her course or even go near this lady.
And besides this, we already know that Sherry spoke out about her issues with connections. There was also another family member that spoke out, Ruby's brother, Bo. Bo saying, I'm very concerned that what I've shared gets gossiped about among others. I've scheduled an appointment that was canceled without informing me. Jody ignores my request for a receipt of services. Not to mention Ruby's sister, Julie from Duru Crew Vlogs, that said connections has torn families apart. It is not a good group to be affiliated with, and hopefully one day she will realize it. And the kind of things that Jody was saying, I think is really important to point out. There was one particular video that struck me where she said that it was women's fault who were SA'd. I can't make this up.
Then do not use your agency to engage in sexual contact. Now, I know that nobody talks about that anymore. Like nobody. I don't hear that from anyone, like abstinence. That used to be around when I was a kid, abstinence. But nobody says that anymore. Because everybody feels like they have a right to just do whatever they want. And then they have these consequences, these outcomes of STDs or pregnancy or you know, and they don't want to take any responsibility for their participation in it. Now, when I say what I'm talking about is you engage in a relationship and then you may say, stop. And the person's like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to take what I want. I'm not talking about like someone attacks you and forces you. I'm talking about your participation. And then at some point you say, I don't want to do this anymore. And, you know, because the person you're with just says, I don't care what you want. Because that's the kind of person you've chosen to hook up with. So, Mom?
That's literally the same thing. Like, that's still SA. I don't understand how this woman ever got a therapy license because she has no idea what SA is. And it's pretty obvious. So you can kind of see this was just a big melting pot. I think that Ruby was already an unstable person and ripe for the picking when Jody came along. That leads us up to the arrest. On August 30th at 9:33 p.m., there was a knock at Jody's neighbor's door. At that point, the police were called.
911, the address of your emergency. Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. He escaped.
Well, I'm glad that he was able to make it to
They're on their way.
and to be safe.
Jody Hildebrand is up there right now.
Okay.
So she may come looking for him here soon, but he's not gonna, obviously. I think we need the cops here as soon as possible.
You could hear by the voice of this man how bad things were. A statement from the Santa Clara Ivins Public Safety Department said that the call came at 10:50 a.m. where an unnamed caller reported that a child appeared to be emaciated and malnourished with open wounds and duct tape around his extremities. The juvenile was asking for food and water, the statement said, and was in a condition so severe that they were seen by Santa Clara Ivins EMS and transported to a local area hospital. I also have the dispatch call. You can hear the cops talking back and forth among each other. It provides some details.
Murphy said a 12-year-old male showed up with tape around his legs Thursday asking for help, said he was afraid asking for police.
Copy 17.
Deborah, he gave the name of Russell Frankie, unknown date of birth, or he did give us the date of birth, but I'm not showing any Russells and Spillman. I'll keep looking into that. The RP said he left through the porch of the neighbor's house. 10-4 break 12x11 and 17 to 1014. The male does have duct tape around each ankle. He's not telling the RP why. And said that there's sores around his wrists and ankles. The RP is becoming emotional regarding the child's health. I'm going to go ahead and have medical stage on this one. 12x11, 12x4, or 17, sorry. The RP said that he left from a neighbor's of Jody Hildebrand. And Ivan's 54-year-old female. Not sure if they're related. When asking the RP's parents, have always said his mom is Ruby Frankie, unknown where she lives.
This next police officer in this dispatch call, you can tell by his voice that he is emotionally thrown off by what he is seeing.
Hey, 314, the wounds on his leg are pretty good. 10-4. 12x511, 314, medical's going to transport him. Said that his wounds are in need of immediate care.
Copy. Control, 2x4, you show myself in 5 heading that way.
Control 12x11, 314 as well. The child looks very emaciated.
So they had an underground room, like a panic room, that they were locking these children in, and the cops obtained a search warrant, and they did find a second malnourished child.
LT, there's a panic room inside the garage, downstairs underneath the garage. Yeah, he says it's downstairs and it's underneath one of the garages, and he's calling it a safe room. He said something about Fort Knox, so I don't know if it has a Fort Knox door or safe on it, but that's what he's talking about.
Temple, we've got it, but we can't get into it.
My guess is that would be where they're at. He says it's a large room, it's a panic room.
This one says Liberty Safe Company. It's got a big wheel on the front. I'm at the front door.
The article goes on to say the police obtained a search warrant, took 4 unnamed children into care, and arrested Ruby and Jody. Something I found interesting was it sounds like Ruby ran from the police. She was at the police station. The police told her to sit still. They were going to talk to her, and then she went to the ER where children were. Check this out.
Just came to our PD and on this case that we're working, we have the custodial parent of the child in the ER. She just came to our PD and then she took off when we said cops will talk to her in a second. So we're hoping maybe someone can go to the cop at the ER can restrict access from her to her kids. That's something you can relay to them. Her name is Ruby, and her name should be in CAD comments.
So Ruby and Jody were arrested with 6 counts of aggravated CA, which is defined as the defendant intentionally or knowingly inflicted upon child serious physical injury, caused or permitted another to inflict serious physical injury upon said child. And such serious physical injury includes any combination of 2 or more physical injuries inflicted by the same person, either at the same time or on different occasions, in violation of Section 76-5-109.2. The second degree carries anywhere between 1 and 15 years and up to $10,000 in fines per each count. And I feel like the affidavit explains the situation well. When it says RF is talking about Russell climbed out of the window of an Ivins residence belonging to Jody and ran to a neighbor's home. Russell knocked on the door requesting food and water. The neighbor observed duct tape on Russell's ankles and wrists and contacted law enforcement. Upon arrival, law enforcement observed the wounds and the malnourishment of Russell to be severe, and he was transported to the St. George Regional Hospital. Russell was placed on a medical hold due to his deep lacerations from being tied up with rope and from his malnourishment. Ruby Frank was seen on a YouTube video filmed in Jody's downstairs, which was posted just 2 days ago. This observation adds to Miss Frank, the mother of Russell, being present in the home and having knowledge of the ABUSC, malnourishment, and neglect. Miss Frankie requested a lawyer and did not speak with us. With this information and the belief that Miss Frank had knowledge of malnourishment, ABUSC, and neglect, the charge will be enhanced to second degree. I asked that Ruby not be allowed bail due to the severity of the injuries of her 2 kids located in the home and the fact that DCFS has taken 4 of Miss Frank's children into their custody, and I have yet to speak with 2 of them. It also says that Eve was found at Jody's residence after Russell made contact with the police, and Eve was found to be malnourished and initially refused medical. After approximately 4 hours, Eve agreed Jody was found to be in direct care of Eve Frankie. She was also determined malnourished by a medical professional upon arriving at St. George Regional Hospital. There was something in Jody's affidavit that I feel like we need to talk about. Here it says that Jody informed the police that Eve and Russell should never be allowed around any other kids. That's the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen, and I think this is going to play a key part in the court case coming up. After news of the arrest started to spread, Ruby's eldest daughter Sherry posted on social media saying, here she's showing a picture of the cops outside of Ruby's house saying, finally. In the next picture it says, today has been a big day. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell police and CPS for years about this, and I'm so glad they finally decided to step up. Kids are safe, but there's a long road ahead. Please keep them in your prayers and also respect their privacy. Not to mention that all 3 of Ruby's sisters posted on Instagram saying the same thing. For the last 3 years, we've kept quiet on the subject of her sister Ruby Frank for the sake of her children. Behind the public scene, we have done everything we could to try to make sure the kids were safe. We wouldn't feel right about moving forward with regular content without addressing the most recent events. Once we do, we will not be commenting on it further. Ruby was arrested, which needed to happen. Jody was arrested, which needed to happen. The kids are now safe, which is the #1 priority, and you can see it's tagged by the other sisters. And additionally, Ruby's sister Bonnie posted an emotionally charged video, which she did end up deleting not too long after.
Content that was supposed to go out tomorrow, Friday, and it is Thursday evening, and this week has been nothing that I could have anticipated. I don't think any of us could have really anticipated. If you have the internet, you have seen news articles on my sister, Ruby, from the 8 passengers. And my sisters and I, we are on the very same page. We put out a message. You can read that on Instagram. And for the last 3 years, we have truly clung on to each other and offering support to one another, and I don't think any of us could have ever seen this coming. We all did as much as we could legally, and you don't know what you don't know. I do feel a little bit numb at this point. The only thing that we ultimately care about is that our nieces and nephews are safe, and they are. And that is the only thing that matters to any of us. It is going to feel weird for me to move forward. And I think, do I just move forward?
Just taking a day at a time. Who knows what anything has in store, but we just know right now that those kids are safe.
I don't have any thoughts even for myself. I don't know what I would even tell myself, let alone tell all of you. I think times like these is where it really tests your belief in God. And I know that timing is everything. And I know that they will be taken care of. I know the kids will be okay. And I know our family will be okay. And things like this happen. And somehow we each find a way to move forward. No matter what situation you're finding yourself in, the sun rises every day, the sun sets every day. And each day you move forward.
I think it's pretty obvious how difficult this was on the family and how hard they've been working over the years on this. My heart goes out to them. I hope that they can somehow find some peace. But the main thing, and I feel like it's so important to get across in this video, is how dangerous Jodi is. Just today, the Mormon Stories podcast on YouTube interviewed Jodi's niece. There's so many important details in this video. I'm going to put it in the description so you guys can check it out. But it details so much, so many details, like, for example, duct taping and locking in rooms. So this is Jodi's niece, Jessie, who goes by they, them pronouns.
She can like rationalize any behavior, anything, because like, you know, the cost or the what is it? The cost of a soul, or
the worth of souls are great, you know?
Yeah. So it's like if doing these things saves your soul, it's worth it. If you know, like if I have to duct tape you and tie you up, if I have to do these things, because she would talk about this too, and make it about her. You know, I'm doing this for you. If I have to do these extreme things, it's to save you. And when the stakes are that high, when everything is that extreme and that emotionally like driven, you can convince anyone of anything.
Some of what was said in this video is hard to watch, but the niece does say that Jodi has been diagnosed with several things.
From what I understand, she's been diagnosed with many issues, including psychopathy. So she, like, as far as I'm aware, she is a psychopath. I was to sleep. I was sleeping at first in her. She had like a little sunroom off her bedroom. At first, I was sleeping on a love seat in there, and then it got worse where I was sleeping on the floor. And then she would make me sleep on her balcony in the middle of winter. This is like January, February in Utah, and she told my family that I was sleeping in like a really like high end, Sub-Zero type of sleeping bag. No. This was like a $5 Walmart brand sleeping bag. And the balcony that I slept on for a long time, it was one of those single balcony, like a single person, like just enough to walk out on. It wasn't like a big, so I couldn't even stretch out. And it was so bad that I would fantasize about jumping off the balcony and breaking my legs or stabbing myself, because I was like, going to the hospital would be better than this.
Jessie said that when they went to the police did nothing. They pleaded for the police to arrest them and that they would commit a crime rather than go back with Jodi. Jessie eventually ran away.
And when I went to the police, I told them, like, can you just arrest me? Because I was like, I would rather be in jail. Like, I will go commit a crime so you can arrest me so I can be out of Jodi's care. And then finally I ran away. I hitchhiked up to Salt Lake from Lehi.
I think some good news is that Jessie's case has been reopened and that she's going to be helping in the 8 passengers case. And I'm going to keep you updated on this situation as things develop. I'm watching the court case very closely.
This is a perfect time to sue her in theory, but I'm guessing you have been advised that the statute of limitations has run out and you couldn't sue her or the church?
No. So I talked to the head detective 2 days ago, and they're actually reopening my case that I filed when I was 16. So, and that is in hopes of helping the case that is currently being with these children, hoping to be able to corroborate those 2 cases. I didn't even consider suing the church until like very recently, like in the last 5 days of like even that being a possibility.
But there is that one thing that's blaring in this entire situation that no one's touching, and that's the fact that this has a lot to do with the Church of Latter-day Saints. Interestingly enough, the Latter-day Saints Church is headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, if you go back to several of the situations that involved Jody, you're going to see that the church was involved. In fact, they suggest out members from the church to Jody. Multiple people affected by Jody saying the therapy was sponsored by the church. Even in the 2012 situation where Jody broke up a marriage. Something very interesting to know is a man named Todd Olson with Lifestar Network in Murray said he is aware of the discipline order against Jody. He said that she is licensed to use the company's materials, but she is not an employee and has no authority over her Utah County office. This is a very interesting thing to hear because we already know that Jody has no issue not only giving out therapy lessons and giving people advices and things like that without any type of documentation, but hires people to work for her that are not mental health professionals. Olson said Lifestar is on the Latter-day Saints Church authorized referral list for X-addiction therapy. The church has recently emphasized the dangers of P-word. Jody was listed as a speaker addressing P-word at the 2010 BYU Women's Conference. Most all the people involved did go to BYU. Even Jody got her education at BYU. So the church was suggesting people to Jody. Jody would ruin their lives, and the church really wouldn't get a word said to them about it. But it seems like now all this is coming into the light. And I do want to say that I understand that not all Mormons or church members of Latter-day Saints are like this, and that this probably is a isolated incident, but it is good to point out that the members of this area specifically seem to be a part of some kind of wrongdoing. If you remember, we talked earlier about Mr. Jane Doe and Jane Doe in an interview where Jody almost lost her license. Well, he's come out no longer anonymous. His name is Adam Paul Steed. He came out on the Mormon Story podcast to tell his story. I'm going to put this full interview in the description below. You guys need to check it out. But there's one part that's specific to the church we need to talk about.
This is Honor Code Office Case Notes by Ed Morin again.
Yeah, that Morwenna or Jody literally weaponizes the Honor Code Office to weaponize Morwenna's bishop, to weaponize my bishop to get to me.
So this is Honor Code Office, BYU Honor Code Office, Ed Morin, making notes about Bishop Steve Reif, who was Morwenna's bishop after she left Adam. March 13th, 2009. Talked with Bishop Steve Reif by phone. Home phone. I provided the last known bishop as Bishop Kevin Santiago, but noted that Adam may have moved on. He made it clear that he will verify that Adam is in that ward before he provides specifics. Bishop Reif noted that he will not make any reference to BYU, nor that Morwenna has reported Adam to BYU. I think I need to read that sentence again. Because tell me if that's right. This is Bishop Reif making sure to say he's going to mislead or deceive.
Yeah, he's not going to let them know that the Honor Code Office and Jody Hildebrandt had talked to him. He's going to make sure that this new bishop doesn't know that.
Yeah. So Bishop Reif noted that he will not make any reference to BYU, nor that Morwenna has reported Adam to BYU. So this is basically the church, Bishop Reif, the Honor Code Office, Jody, all conspiring to break their own rules and to deceive people about it.
So what you just heard was subpoenaed court documents of the church, direct evidence of breaking the law and protecting not just themselves, but Jody Hildebrandt. They also detail how she could use this as a defense in the current case.
This is a good example of how covertly the church used bishop leaders to do something that would affect a civil case, and that they knew that they were breaking the rules, but they did it anyway. And it's also a good example of how people in an institution often, when you use manipulation or psychoviolent manipulation, they leave their rules to go do something. And that's why Jody needs violence in this court case now to try to create a context of where they were innocent in these children.
those that worked closely with Jody and the ones that were involved in any of her dealings should probably be looked into in every decision that they've made towards her, because if they are protecting her, that's not good. Going back to the interview with Jesse, they talk about how closely Jody was connected with the church. And even though she was in trouble of losing her therapy license, they were still letting her be a guest speaker and do other things.
As far as I understand it, over the past 20, 30 years, the most recommended therapist in the Wasatch Front by the Mormon Church, because every single person that's reached out to me to tell a horrific story says that it was their bishop that recommended Jody Hildebrandt, because Jody must have been on a list. And Jody would always begin her engagements with clients, Mormon clients, saying that she had direct relationships with Mormon apostles, that she was influential in the church developing its mental programs.
Oh, yeah.
So
she was very involved.
So the company that she worked for, LifeStar, was on the list. And even though she got in trouble and her license was put on probation for 18 months, she was still allowed to work in and out of that system. She wasn't technically employed, but she was still there and speaking as a guest key speaker. Likely, no doubt, a privilege afforded to her by her close connections.
This is crazy thinking about it now. I used to do her billing.
Social media? Oh.
No, I did her billing.
Oh.
And she would bill the church. And so, like every client, essentially, I would say like the vast majority of her clients were from bishop recommendations, just based off of the billing that I would do for her.
Because in the Mormon Church, if somebody can't afford a therapist, tithes and offerings might be used by the bishop, who recommends, his ward members to Jody. He would then foot the bill. So the church was funding. So the Mormon Church was funding Jody Hildebrandt's wealth and success and power.
And it wasn't just the church funding her bills. Even with that income coming in, she was attempting to get more money from her clients outside of that, if you remember the previous story with John Doe.
And the church knew, at least my local ward, Bishop Bangerter knew what was happening. And this is getting a little ahead of the story, but people in the church in my ward started becoming very nervous about what was going on. They were becoming very concerned with just my physical, like what I was looking like in the church. And they went to Bishop Bangerter and voiced their concern about something is wrong. And Bishop went to Jody and told her, gave her the names of these people.
That's absolutely mind-blowing. And there's some updates in the case that just came out today, and I'm going to go ahead and go over those right now. And this is shocking. This is the first time we see Ruby and Jody since the arrest. Their next hearing scheduled for September 21st. Ruby and Jody have not been taken this well. Ruby's been in a special cell on medical watch, while Jody's attorney filed a motion to the court asking for an expedited detention hearing, citing the defendant has experienced life-threatening medical issues resulting in her hospitalization for several days. Another crazy thing is that the judge has been reassigned to a Mr. Judge John Walton. The lawyer motioned with the court to reassign this case to Judge Walton to be the co-defendant's case. So I looked into this judge. The judge also went to BYU. From the outside looking in, my personal opinion is that these people have been covering for Jody on the back end for a very long time. And I think it would be better to have somebody that was not a member of the church overlooking this case. But you guys let me know what you think below. So after Ruby was arrested, she then shifted the blame to her children. Mommy vlogger Ruby Frank blames her children after CA arrest. In a twisted turn of events, Ruby says in court that her children deserved what they got. Ruby Frank told the courts that one of her 6 children had SA'd at least 20 people, including siblings, cousins, and neighbors. These disturbing and alleged things included some sort of patting game that the kids played together, and also an alleged confession from her kid. She then goes on to say that her child began watching inappropriate videos when they were only 3 years of age, which, close up on the camera here, that means that she's a terrible parent, which we already knew. But it's really convenient that she also had absolutely no evidence of this. However, the judge placed the child in a home with no other children, which Jody does mention in the affidavit that Russell shouldn't be allowed around any other children, which if you remember, Adam Paul Steed said that Jody would need this type of narrative to win the current case. In every situation involving Jody and her clients, there always seems to be something to do with inappropriate imagery or action. I'm thinking it's projection. I'm not going to believe this narrative for a second. And it looks like nobody else is buying it either because Jody surrendered her counseling license to the state. And something else I'm also not surprised about is some of the neighbors are speaking out and they were saying that Ruby, well, she led a double life. Quoted saying, we would see how she was with her kids, and then I would see these ridiculous YouTuber Instagram videos of her lecturing and preaching about how to be a mom of truth. And I was like, this is the craziest thing. This is the worst mother I know of. Stating her off-camera persona was much less principled as she would act, saying she would act flirty towards men whenever they were walking outside alone. Ruby's lawyer actually came out recently and said that he expects her to be incarcerated for the foreseeable future, so that's good news to me. One thing that's got me confused is how did this go on for so many years and the law didn't get involved? Well, I think it's got something to do with Utah's free-range parenting law. This law protects parents where they can let the children just roam free and be alone just whenever. This type of free-range parenting style in Utah is supposed to encourage free exploration and independence for children. But it looks to me like it's a loophole in which it made CPS not be able to act. Interestingly enough, Kevin won't point fingers following the CA charges. Kevin's attorney said that Kevin and Ruby had been separated at Ruby's directive for approximately 13 months, stating Kevin did not want to be separated. He wanted to work through concerns as a family. And this separation was prescribed under the terms of, you guessed it, Ruby and Jody. Kevin's lawyer said that Kevin had not recently seen his children at all, as Ruby wanted to separate while they worked on their marriage, and that Ruby assured Kevin that their children were happy in his absence. Kevin goes on to say that if he had any idea that anything like this was happening, he would have been down there in 2 seconds. But it's really confusing because past videos show Kevin okay with Ruby and Jody's methods. So take that for what you will. I'm going to be in the comments section to see what you guys say. This was a very difficult video to make, but like I said, subscribe with notifications turned on. I'm going to keep you guys up to date on this. I'll be putting things out on my social media as well. My heart goes out to all those involved. I cannot believe that this happened. And this is like one of the worst situations on YouTube that I can remember in a long time. But I do want to hear what you guys think about this situation. And as interesting as this is, also it's more interesting to me. That's right, you guessed it. I want to know what you think. So why don't you go ahead and leave your creative or interesting responses in the comment box below. Thumbs up for those likes. As always, brothers and sisters, I will see you in the next video. You probably need a palate cleanser, so you'll be happy to know that last weekend I started back live streams. I will be live streaming this weekend as well. It's probably going to be a little bit on this topic, I don't know. And I'm also going to be live streaming for just patrons only. Now, if you do want to get your name at the end of my videos and support what I do here on this channel, then I'll put that also in the pinned comment, and much appreciated if you do that. Also, if you can look to the right on desktop, below on mobile, I am doing a charity to help children in difficult situations, and we've already surpassed the goal, but I would like to get that closer to $5,000, and I think that we can do that. If each one of you watching this video right now donated just $1, my videos get thousands of views, we could meet that goal so easy. So I ask that if you can spare $1, do it. You don't have to. It's completely up to you. And that's just another way to show that you're repping. If you're not repping, you're Greg, and how you do that, all you gotta do is subscribe, notification, turn on, be in the comment section every single video, because I'm gonna be there. Greg the Cat's gonna be there in spirit, and the rest of the Red Soul community as well. And I expect you to be there too, because this channel loves you. Alright guys, good night. This is gonna be a long video to edit.